Welcome to this microphone. Welcome, Merijn, and welcome, Stephen. Great to have you both here. And we wanted to talk about the cooperation between Delaware and LiquiSense. Just for the quick introduction, Stephen is the COO of LiquiSense, right? And Merijn is the category manager of Delaware for F&B in particular. Correct me if I'm wrong.
It's not the category manager, but call me the lead architect for consumer packaged goods in Delaware, Belgium, and Luxembourg.
So now we have it very, very precisely. So recently you joined the corporation Delaware together with LiquiSense, and I would like to dive into that to identify, or let's say to hear exactly the story, why you have came together, and what is it what you're offering for the food and bev plants, right? So, but let's start in the very beginning. Delaware. I mean, if I'm from the industry, I'm from the wastewater industry. I've never heard about Delaware, right? Because normally we have these kind of hardware companies that bring all the equipment to the plants and want to sell that. And now we have Delaware here. So what is it what Delaware brings to F&B food for an F&B water or wastewater plant?
Okay, well, it's a very interesting question. Thank you for allowing me the time to clarify. Delaware is an integrator of software, IT software. So we focus primarily on big ecosystems like SAP, Microsoft, Salesforce, OpenText, etc. And within consumer packaged goods or F&B or any other type of food factory or company, we are typically involved in IT operations. So moving from ERP systems, data interpretation, collaboration systems. So that's the core of what we do. And of course, with everything related to Industry 4.0, the integration merge, or how you might call it, between the IT side and what you then typically know as the OT side, operational technology, sensors, machines, etc. All of these things in Industry 4.0 generates data. And this is the playing field where we as Delaware are on the lookout for very interesting companies to collaborate with. And this is where it becomes interesting.
Absolutely. Super interesting. Especially you use the terms IT and OT, right? So information technology, and we're also talking about operational technology for all the ones inside, of course, me as well, right? Before that, have never heard about OT because it is not one of the terms we are normally using. So I'm pretty happy that you shared that. But how does water come into that play? Why water?
Okay. Well, one of the main components in everything that we need as a human being is water. And especially in food, water is considered one of the primary sources. Very, very important with regards to how you drink, for instance, or how bread is baked. It uses water. So as a single most ingredient, it's extremely important. But then again, the usage of water in our industry is of course a lot broader. We use it to clean, we use it to rinse, we use it to provide steam for potatoes and for vegetables to be peeled. We use it to cool. So water in any food production company's area or in a factory is of extreme importance and is constantly used, constantly monitored, etc. And that's the essence. And it's one of these natural ingredients, natural resources where we need to be very vigilant about. It's scarce. It has a quality component. It has a waste component. And for that, it's becoming one of the primary resources that we will be working with. And for that, water is extremely important for our industry.
Oh yeah, water is extremely important, really, for everything. Right now we have outside 40 degrees. I think we are here now. I mean, you guys are somewhere in the Benelux. I'm here in Germany. It's super hot, so water is super important. That brings me to Stephen here. On the other hand, so Stephen, in a nutshell, what is it what LiquiSense brings to the table if it comes to water?
Yes, so what we are doing at LiquiSense, we are using existing data, mostly from the OT systems, SCADA systems. We link it to IT information, for example, laboratory data, and we build predictive models that help our customers to optimize the management of their water systems so they have a better management of their risks and better management of the costs.
So we have now LiquiSense and Delaware. So it's like, I don't know, how did you guys came together? Have you been on a speed dating event, or what did you do?
I remember there Merijn, the first time that we were in contact, and indeed I know Delaware is an IT company, and we started talking, and I remember that phone call, it was like for me, like, we are working on the same stuff, and we were there as well. It was very surprising how from completely different angles we were striving for the same goals. And I think that was for me the moment where we saw, here it's worth discovering more if a collaboration could be interesting. Where of course we as LiquiSense, we work on a very niche solution, our water quality predictive models. But of course, we always need a broader vision on IT and OT, and that's what Delaware is doing very well in the sector.
So
Yeah, I
Merijn,
can only say
please go ahead.
Yeah. So I was introduced to Stephen just simply because we are on the lookout constantly for innovative solutions that complement anything that we do at our customers. So we identified the opportunity for water treatment, water usage, data capturing around water as a primary source. And we work with an ecosystem of highly promising partners. That can be a startup, a scale-up, or any other type of company. So in my day-to-day job, I monitor the market based on customer demands, customer questions, trends that we spot, things that we see evolve in the market, technology that becomes available or becomes affordable or becomes scalable. And then it's up to us to decide, can we enter into some sort of a joint agreement, a value that we can propose towards a potential customer. And in the case of LiquiSense, after one meeting, we felt it very naturally as something that we should do. And I'm very lucky with people such as Stephen that are very open to look for more and to elaborate on what the potential of collaboration between a company such as LiquiSense and a company such as Delaware could entail.
So that means you fall in love, right? Back to my example. I mean, you met somewhere and then you fall in love, which is great.
I would say we're like two swans on the water, and we found each other.
Awesome, Stephen. But how is the interface? How have you defined the workload, or let's say, what is it what you are offering together as package, and how do you define who's doing what?
So we as LiquiSense, we start working based on data sets that the customer deliver to us. There we can do an offline modeling and show the potential value, but then we have to bring it live. And there often we enter in discussions with IT departments, OT departments, how they manage this. And for us, the ideal situation is that they have a clear vision on how they manage their data, how they manage their data, how they handle the risks that can be linked to it. And ideally, the companies that are working with Merijn, they have the ambition, they see the value of having a integrated data sets. And they already have a clear vision on how to make smart monitoring solutions available and how we can run it in real time.
Okay, but how's the interface? So what is it what you deliver, and what is what Merijn Delaware is going to deliver? Maybe you can answer, Merijn.
So you might see the value as Delaware being an orchestrator and LiquiSense being a very, very professional, profound, knowledgeable expert in a specific domain. They enter at a company, start doing whatever they do with regards to data, and typically it remains siloed. It remains siloed in what you might call a proof of concept. Once, and this is where Stephen is right, once a company decides, look, this is more than a proof of concept. We want to really start dealing with this from a different angle, tactical, strategic, or whatsoever, the need for a bigger architecture, a broader architecture or governance on how data is being captured, stored, made actionable. This is where Delaware then comes into play, because we typically overlook a company from an orchestrator point of view, where we work in different angles, in different streams. We do have data monitoring, we have data lake capabilities. We also have data and AI capabilities. So we are what you might call knowledgeable within a company. And then Stephen brings in that typical expertise that we will never have. And for a company, that's a situation where three parties basically win. The company can leverage upon the expertise of LiquiSense and the history that we have and they see in our collaboration a de-risk. So whatever we do, whatever we come up with, it's already discussed amongst the two of us. So it's faster, it's proven, and it's a de-risk for the siloed approach. And that's the value in ecosystem thinking and in going together onto the market as a partnership instead of only doing it through our own way of working. So it's faster, it's more reliable, it's scalable, and it's a de-risk for the company that we work for.
Okay, so that is if I'm the operator of a wastewater treatment plant, for instance, I'm working for have my own chips or my own Coke or whatever I'm going to produce. So that is a benefit, but someone needs to have the lead, right? Or let's say other way around. Who's going to knock the door? Who brings who with? If I'm the operator, if I'm sitting here in my chair, I'm operating this beautiful ships manufacturing here in front of me. So who knocks the door? How does it work? How do you guys come to me?
There are different ways, and it's not one and only one potential or way of working. It can be that it is because of Steven's introduction in your company and then we will follow, or it's vice versa. So there's a variety in how the partnership is. So it's always contextualized and it can, of course, always evolve. But maybe that's not something to really go into too much details, I think. But for me, the essence is what is the added value of the partnership towards customers and not the operational model behind it, if you don't mind. So unless, Steven, this is something that you really would like to elaborate upon, but maybe that's going a bit...
Not necessarily too much in detail, but I think what's interesting in this kind of collaboration is that instead of having a company that has to connect by themselves the different dots, the interesting in this kind of setup is that we already discussed with each other, we already understand the challenges that both can have, and so we make it work easier.
Yeah. And without being too technical, we know how to set up the integration, for instance. We know how the report can be done. It's typical things that gain time, that are efficient to customers because they only have, sort of say, one party to address.
For example, we are used to talk to water operators and water people, but not necessarily to talk with the IT departments. And that's the language that Merijn, of course, manage very well.
Yeah, and vice versa. Yeah. I mean, water is such a typical domain. You need an expert to do it, and this is where we are complementary.
Yeah. So what are the challenges? Let's say I need to have that I'm going to reach out to you. So when you come together, right? So I mean, I'm pretty sure you have seen that. What are the challenges that they are going to reach out to you guys?
You want to address this, Steven?
For me, so the typical challenge is, in our case, when we start collaborating with a company, we deliver a solution, and then we have already decided we go for solutions on-premise, because we think from data security perspective, it's very hard to make integrations with large companies, large corporates. But then today what we see is they start talking with their OT integrator how we can get access to the data. And I can imagine that these companies, there are today so many different solutions around data that every time another company is coming in and offers another way of getting access to the data, that it can become a nightmare for an IT department. And that's where it becomes very valuable that Delaware is helping them to have a clear vision on how to elaborate the right IT architecture, where they can implement maybe our solutions, but also a lot of other solutions that can be completely different use cases.
So access to data, reliability on data, the way data is stored, the way data is made actionable towards an end user. That's typically the operational challenges that companies see. But with regards to water, there are two sides as well on a different level. First of all, water equals waste and water equals quality. And I think specifically in the food industry, a lot of focus has been done on quality, OEE are typical things. So there, the water processes inside a company are at a decent level. The challenge that we see, and is becoming very, very important right now, is waste. The waste challenge in water is extreme. You tend to generate a lot of water that is treated as a waste stream. And there's a lot of things going on circularity. It's buzzwords, such you probably heard them. But a lot of companies are struggling now with turning water and wastewater into a circular ingredient that they can either reuse themselves or put back onto what you might call either the market or the flow, either through channels or through the water system or whatsoever. And that's another type of challenges. So Steven's perfectly right. Boots on the ground, challenges on that area, but then on top, there's also other types of challenges that water or food companies are dealing with at this moment.
And of course, if things become more circular, then the cycles become also a lot more shorter, and you should have faster risk detection, and that's what we can offer as LiquiSense.
Yeah, which then revolves to lower cost, higher margins, and then again you talk to a different type of opportunities that you could see from this type of collaboration.
I'm a big fan of using, instead of wastewater, resource water, right? Because it has a lot of value. But I think the industry is not ready for this term yet. But it's a super important thing. Let's stay a minute for the data you mentioned, data security, data management. What happened with my data as operator from my ship, from my potato chip factory? So if you come in, all the data that LiquiSense is producing, that from the other sensors, what happened with the data? I think in terms of security, in terms of who's going to own what, who has access, and so on. I think it's a huge topic all the time. So what happens really with the data?
Steven, you want to talk about it?
Yes. So from our side, we have the policies in place that are compliant with the ISO 27001. Again, to build the offline models, we receive some data sets, but once the model is validated and ready to implement, we deliver a script that's the ownership of the company, and that can be implemented on premise so that there's not a risk of data leakages at that level. But of course, on the other side, it's very important for these companies that they understand who has access to their data, what kind of solutions are using their data. And there again, it comes to a very clear vision on their architecture, and that's then where Merijn is specialized in.
Yeah, Delaware as such is specialized. Yeah. It's not my area of expertise. But what we're referring to is the data governance behind any data project that we do. So there embedded is security, but it's also related to the questions who can see what type of data with what type of volume at what time, etc. So we have some customers where this data governance and data stewardship is really even a separate project, because it's not only related to, for instance, the water data, but it comes with any type of IT/OT integration. Specific question that arises is, who is the owner of the data? Is that the company, or is that the sensor manufacturer, the line component manufacturer, the integrator, or is it somewhere stored in the cloud somewhere? And how does this data live there, evolve there, grows there? And it's typically these types of things which we capture in data lakes. And over a data lake, there's a data governance layer, which then determines who is owner, who can create, read, and do, etc., etc. But also, what do we do with synthetic data, aggregated data? Because of course, if you combine LiquiSense's data with just the utilities data, energy data, you tend to come up with really, really, really deep and very valuable insights. So it's the aggregation of data becomes then new types of data. Who owns it then? And of course, there's a complete service model behind it. And there again, it's up to the company for who we both work through to that data governance layer that can decide what will happen with it or how they deal with it. Do they keep it to themselves? Do they resell it? And then it's a completely different model that's behind it.
But do you agree that this is one of the most challenging topics at the moment to discuss with especially end users, with operators? I have heard so many bad stories about what is going to happen with the data. They have legal teams just for this, meanwhile, because everybody is scared that not just that someone else is getting the data in terms of using them, but that they lose the access to that for maintenance, that they lose the data for someone else that can look into the data, can copy the technology. There are tons of different stories. So I have heard so many. So it seems that this is a very delicate one.
For sure. You're completely spot on. Where is the data? It's in the cloud somewhere. And what's going to happen? Does it mean that you know how much water I use, how much wastewater I have, how much water I use in my drink, how much water do I use in my bread? I mean, these typical things, they're or were considered recipes, and a lot of recipes, specifically in food, are the essence of certain brands and are, need to be secured. Correct.
Absolutely right. Yeah, absolutely. Especially if it comes to food and bev, they have their own topics as well, of course.
Sure.
LiquiSense. What is it? If I use LiquiSense, what is it? What I get more in terms what I need to have in terms what I can put into the cloud and put these kind of data. What is it? What I get? Why should I use LiquiSense and not just go to, for instance, Delaware?
Yes. So what we are doing as LiquiSense, we are analyzing the data concerning the water systems, and to run some data analytics, first it's very important to have a good understanding of the processes. And so that's our specialization, where we combine the knowledge of machine learning with the very well and good knowledge of water systems and water engineering. And that's our niche where we position ourselves, where we build these models specifically on water quality to optimize risks and costs. And that's something, a specialization that's not necessarily the focus of Delaware.
Do I need to have special sensors for that?
So what we start doing is we look to the existing data sets. Then there's a certain research question. How can we optimize the cost of certain chemical dosings, or how can we avoid the Legionella risk? And then we look with the already available data, how good can we find the correlations with lab analysis? And if these correlations are very promising, then we can use the already existing data. Sometimes it can be interesting to have some extra sensors to improve the accuracy of the models. But what we learned already from now is that most of the interesting events are already captured by existing information. And most of our customers have a lot of data available and are very surprised of what's the power of this data once we start crunching it.
No, that's absolutely true. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they have tons of data and they don't know it. Actually,
they have the data on the table. In fact, it's like money on the table, but they are not necessarily touching it.
Merijn, you said you're going to build an entire ecosystem around this. So these kind of partnerships. What other kind of companies you are looking for that you want to have in these kind of ecosystem, or you want to offer for the F&B clients?
Yeah. Well, typically, such as LiquiSense, the people that are extremely knowledgeable and have an expertise on, for instance, the process, but can also interpret the data and do something valuable with it. And it takes a lot of expertise, years of experience, boots on the ground. You need to talk the talk and walk the walk, basically. And that's the typical partner that we're looking for. And from a technical point of view, if you're looking into how, for instance, ERP systems are built up, this expertise is not part of a typical ERP scope. We will never enter these specifics. So we need to collaborate with people that are more knowledgeable, more expert in these areas than what we do. So we know our stuff. LiquiSense knows water. We know the system. We know financial processes, how data is transactionally set up. We can interpret it then. LiquiSense knows exactly what happens with regards to water. But we are looking for these types of partners that can add something else. So let me give you two examples. Vision inspection for quality in the incoming goods as well as on the outside goods. That's typically one. Gas, who uses to heat ovens or to prepare food. In the area of food quality, we're also looking for partners that have ideas on optimization of shelf life, for instance, circularity as well. So all of these things that are very expert driven and are not in the core of any type of transactional system, such as an ERP system or any other type of system. That's the type of partner that we're looking for. And of course, those that are willing to collaborate in an ecosystem, that wants to add something, that wants to share knowledge, that wants to be open and transparent, and that wants to also think in terms of ecosystem value, meaning it's always open. If you have something to add it. If you have something to share, an insight, a lead or whatsoever, share it to the others. That's when the ecosystem becomes beneficial. And that's an attitude that we're looking for. And this is something very, very profound within LiquiSense, the openness to collaborate.
Awesome. So,
Thank you.
Steven, now you can describe the perfect customer you both are looking for. I mean, we talked now about the tech companies that needs to join the ecosystem, but what is the end user, the perfect end user look like from your perspective?
For me, today talking with multiple end users. So mostly it are food companies where wastewater treatment system, for example, where it's very important that they stay compliant, but that are interested staying compliant to optimize the cost of this wastewater treatment. That is a typical example of where we can, because most of the time in these wastewater treatments, people don't like to take risks, so they prefer to add some more chemicals to be sure that they are good. We can help them to tell when they are still good enough, but they can save some money. And that's often something that's not really looked into, and where we can help give the insights with good data analytics. And yeah, I think a lot of these customers are also collaborating with Delaware.
Yeah. So the golden type of customer is the one that is not looking to water as this is a monthly bill that I have to pay, a cost basically, but the one who's really looking further, who wants to decide, look, there might be optimizations, not only for me as a company, but maybe also for the environment where we put the water in, from a resource perspective, who look into scarcity, from a sustainability perspective, who look into, hey, we need to make sure that we keep the planet in a healthy and safe condition. That's the golden customer that we're looking for, and we do identify them in the Belgian market. That's a good thing.
So if I am the golden customer, right, and I'm listening to that here, what should I do next to take the first step?
Just reach out to one of us, and we will be very happy to get in contact.
Of course, that's one thing to look into it. I think also try and find out what is achievably realistic, and then decide how important is investigating in optimizing water treatment of water as an ingredient, quality perspective, etc. How achievably realistic is this for me, or how strategic is it for me? Try and identify a plan. Do they already have it? And of course, we can help in these types of things. Build a roadmap. How do we size the elephant, and what are typical things that we do? And this is, for instance, where LiquiSense and Delaware are collaborating. So in the aftermath of October and November, we will plan a joint campaign where we don't talk about slides, but we go on sites and we address these typical things. How do I convince a board? How do I make a roadmap? How do I plan? How do I move from an idea to a proof of concept? What's the angle of change management that it involves for an operator point of view? So all of these questions that arise where a lot of companies have thoughts about, yeah, we are open to share our knowledge and to address them during a weekly campaign that we do at those customers. So if they don't know it yet, we can assist. If they do know it, then take it up like Steven, just give us a call and we'll be there.
Awesome. So guys, you have heard it. You know now how to reach out. You know now the campaign that will come up. And when was it? In September?
Yeah.
In September,
The
you
title
said, right?
is Fuck Food Waste Week.
Fuck food waste.
Yeah.
So I think it's written in a different way. I'm pretty sure that.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks a lot, Merijn, for coming to the microphone. Thanks a lot, Steven. And great success. I wish you great success with the corporation and with the future. Thank you very much.